Ben ate too much for breakfast and needed to lie down for a nap, and he asked that I would take over. So I am taking over. I ask you to just bear with me, but I'm so glad that you have come out this morning and you get to hear my story. You know, I've been doing a lot of walking lately, and where I come from, you just never know who might join you on your walk. Such was the case for me on one certain Sunday morning. Of course, it's where I'm from, it's different than out there. It's much sunnier and a lot hotter. But anyway, let me first of all ask you, have you ever been discouraged? Maybe discouraged because what you thought would happen didn't happen. Maybe someone, even someone close to you, let you down. Maybe you let yourself down. Maybe, can I dare say it, you felt like God let you down. Well, that's what I want to talk to you about today. I'm from a little village about 7 miles from Jerusalem called Emmaus. How many here has ever heard of Emmaus? A few of you have. It's not a big place, maybe like Fayed or so, but in fact, archaeologists to this day don't know exactly where it was located, but that is where I am from. Anyway, I'm sorry, I haven't given you my name yet. Well, my name is Cleopas. Has anybody heard of me? Some of you, maybe. I want to tell you about a certain day in my life that is what you might call a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. At least it started out that way, but it did not end that way. But I need to back it up a few days, actually maybe a few years to give you some context. You see, there was this, how do I put it, a very powerful yet humble, interesting person who came to live among us. In one sense, he was just like you and I. He slept, he ate, he walked, he cried, he laughed, he rejoiced. I mean, he was human just like us. And yet, in another sense, it was like he was more than human, or not just human. He remained calm when people attacked him. When people would challenge him with arguments, he just had the right comeback and just to put them in their place. He did these mighty miracles that were unbelievable. The words that he spoke and the deeds that he did. He was a prophet. He spoke of the future as if it would happen. He didn't say it could or might. I mean, he spoke matter-of-factly. He cared for others, and he was amazing. And we all became convinced that he was the one. You know, the one. The one who would redeem us Jews from the oppression of the Romans. We just knew that he was the one, and yet he died. He died at the hands of the Romans, but also from our own religious leaders. Do you know who I'm speaking of this morning? I'm speaking of Jesus. Have you ever heard of him? To say I was disappointed that Jesus died is an understatement. I was just for sure that he was the one, and yet I kind of feel like even Jesus let me down. Maybe I just misinterpreted things. Maybe I just got caught up in the drama of it all. But maybe I just read too much into it. But when you just see the one that you knew, you just put all your hopes and dreams and ambitions on, you saw him hanging on the cross with blood coming down, it's just so unreal. How could this be? How could this happen? It was like the end of everything. My dreams were dashed. Well, this Jesus went to the cross, and that took place on a Friday. The next day, as us Jews observe, is the Sabbath, and it was just kind of hard to kind of make it through the day, kind of just like going through the motions, and it just didn't seem right. I mean, how do you move on when the one you just had such hope in is dead? And what hope did I have from here on? What hope did any of us have? Well, the next day was the first day of the week, what you all call Sunday, and we're still shell-shocked over the events of the weekend with Jesus dying, and so we decided that might as well just go back home. And so my wife and I, we decided that we're just going to go back home. Like I said, I'm from Emmaus. The name means hot springs or hot baths and refers to the warm water springs around the area that are said to help medicinally. I think I joked at that time that maybe those warm water springs would just help my depression and discouragement. I was trying anything at this time. Who knows? So my wife and I, we got going and started back home, back to Emmaus, disappointed, depressed, discouraged, distraught. Anybody ever here been that way? That's where I was. We just couldn't understand where we went wrong. Did we make too much of Jesus? Did we read too much? Did we just hope that he did these wonderful miracles? Did he trick us? Why did God let us go through all this, get our hopes up, and just abandon us? It just didn't make sense. And so as we walked home, we discussed the events, everything that happened. I guess talking helped some. We just couldn't understand where we went wrong. Who do we blame? Do we blame the Romans? Do we blame our religious leaders? Do we blame ourselves? Do we blame God? I mean, we just knew that he was going to be the one to redeem us, and yet he's dead. As proof, they buried him. Do you ever feel like that? That you had such high hopes in something or someone, maybe even someone close to you, and they just let you down. Maybe you even feel like God has let you down. Well, that's where I was. Well, on that Emmaus Road is what we call it. There are many roads leading out of Jerusalem. It's not uncommon for people to join your party as if they're going the same direction as you are. Remember, we had about a 7-mile walk to go back home. But you might recall, this was the season of the Passover, the festival of the Passover, where the city of Jerusalem swelled in size. But we headed back home, and as we're going, this man joined our little party. And that's not strange, because again, that happened all the time. But what was strange was this guy seemed to have been living under a rock over the past weekend. Now, to be honest, I didn't really get a good look at that guy. I think I was more focused on getting home, trying to start our lives over again, but he could tell that we were upset, and he wanted to know what we were talking about. And I kind of joked to myself, like, duh, what everybody else around here is probably talking about, about Jesus. Surely this man knew what had happened with Jesus in the weekend events in Jerusalem. And so we're like, you know about the things that just happened in Jerusalem, right? You know about those things. And he says, what things? Seriously? How does this guy not know about what had happened? Had he been living under a rock? I mean, what's going on here? So we told this guy everything that happened. We told him about Jesus of Nazareth, and how we believe him to be a prophet, and about the words that he spoke and the deeds he did for others. And we told him about how the chief priest and our religious leaders turned him over to be crucified. Further, we had told him that we had really hoped that this Jesus would be the one to redeem us, Israel, from the oppression of the Romans. And now it's the third day, and Rome's still in charge. Jesus is dead, and I'm going back home. Now, we did tell this guy something interesting that did happen that morning that I hadn't shared yet. And I feel a little silly bringing it up now because it should have been like, but let me just share what happened. Before we had taken off, we had heard that some women had gone to the tomb where Jesus was placed. And they claimed that the body was not there. And they further claimed that they had this vision of angels and that they heard from these angels. And they reported that to the apostles and others, and that got the men curious, and so they went to the tomb. They too didn't see Jesus there, but neither did they see where Jesus was. Now, at that time, I kind of thought these women were a little bit, probably just a little overzealous. I don't know what they thought they heard or seen. I mean, come on. Because the Messiah that I believe was coming, he was coming to rule and to reign. But Jesus was killed. So obviously, whatever these women thought they seen or heard could not have been Jesus, because Jesus died. I mean, many of us saw Jesus die. Many of us saw where his body was placed. So I don't know what these women thought they seen or what they heard. In my culture, women's testimony is not very credible. So we were like, whatever. But obviously, whatever they saw or heard, it could not be true because Jesus died. I mean, how can you have Jesus dead but also ruling? And that doesn't make any sense, of course. And so I explained to our visitor that day. Again, I was just shocked he hadn't heard any of this, right? But after I got done speaking, he spoke up. He said, "You foolish people, are you so slow to believe all of what the prophets had said?" What? Who is this guy? First, he's oblivious to current events. Secondly, he's accusing me of being slow to believe the prophets. What is he talking about? Of course I believe all what the prophets have said. Hadn't I? Had I been too quick to maybe latch on to verses that talked about the Messiah reigning over Israel and over the world, that maybe sort of ignored or not read other passages that may have suggested that he would also suffer? Do you ever do that? Maybe favor some passages that you like, but ignore or explain away clear other passages? Well, after he accused me of being slow to believe the prophets, he made an interesting comment. He says, doesn't the scriptures teach that the Christ must first suffer and then enter into his glory? Well, no. Wait, no. Does it? And I didn't say anything out loud, but I'll never forget what happened next. Right there on the Emmaus Road, this stranger did an impromptu Bible study. It was unbelievable. He started in Genesis and worked through all of our scriptures, what you call the Old Testament. Now, I thought I had a pretty good grasp of Scripture, but this guy was bringing out things I had never seen before, things about the Messiah. Why hadn't I seen this? Rabbis never taught me this. What's going on? Where did you get this? And he would show me that, yes, the Messiah would suffer and that he would die, but also that he would reign. And if that was true, if what he was showing me was true about the Messiah, then you know what my problem was that day? My problem was that I did not know the big picture. I did not have the big picture. I had totally blocked out, I like the second part, that Christ is going to reign, the good part, but I had totally ignored or blocked out or refused to believe the first part, that the Christ must suffer first. In other words, the whole time that I was distraught and discouraged and downcasted because Jesus was crucified, then it died on me. That had to be done. In other words, the crucifixion was not plan B, it was plan A all along. I just hadn't seen the big picture. Let me ask about you. Do you ever make hasty generalizations before you have all the facts? You ever been guilty of that? Maybe you just didn't know the whole big picture before you came to a conclusion. Maybe you found out later that God was, in fact, on time the whole time. Anybody here ever been that way? Well, that's where I was. Well, would you believe that we had almost neared the end of that 7-mile journey back from Jerusalem to Emmaus? And this stranger, who was still a mystery to my wife and I, he acted like he was going to go further. But it was getting dark, it was nearing evening, and where I'm from, you don't go out at night because it's dangerous. And so we invited him to stay at our house. And he accepted. And we got to our place, and what he did next, I'm never going to forget. We were at our house, and you know what the stranger did? He played host. You would think that I would be the one to play host, or my wife, or the servant. But no, the stranger was the one who played host. He took some bread, gave thanks, broke it off, and started to hand it to us. It was then that we both realized who had been with us that whole time on the Emmaus Road. Our eyes were then opened. We realized it when he broke the bread and we saw the nail marks in his wrist. Wait a minute. This is Jesus. It was Jesus who was with us this whole time that we were on the Emmaus walk. It was Jesus who had opened up the scriptures to us, showed us things about the Messiah that we had never seen before. And here he was, right at the table with us. We could touch him. He's right under our roof. And I was like, but how? You're dead, but you're alive. How do you do this? And, oh, so this is how you can have a Messiah that is both dies and also is glorified. It's because death wasn't the end. Death was just a transition to what came next. It all came together. Death wasn't the end. He resurrected. That's how it all put together. And just as quickly as our eyes were opened and we realized who he was, you know what happened? He was gone. He was gone. It was then that I confessed to my wife, and she totally agreed that, listen, the whole time that we were on the Emmaus Road and he was opening up the scriptures, my heart was burning. And she said the same here. It was just amazing what he did. Well, what we thought would be a night at home, kind of entertaining, I guess, but also just trying to pick up the pieces of our life from here on after, turned out to be entirely something different. Jesus was gone. Where did he go? I don't know. So you know what my wife and I did? We went back into Jerusalem. Was Jesus there? Had he shown himself to the women again? Had he shown himself to the apostles? Where was he? We didn't know. We took off. We went to Jerusalem. And we found the 11 apostles. Remember, Judas is gone at this point. And we found them and we shouted, it's true, Jesus is alive. We've seen him. And he rose from the dead. And we recounted our story of that day, the same story that I'm telling you this morning. One that started off with discouragement, despair, disappointment, whatever you want to call it, to one full of joy and hope. Well, my time is about up this morning. I know some of you need to get to lunch, but bear with me here. What good word might I leave with you this morning? I want you to consider again the situation that I was in. Now, my situation is not your exact situation that you might have this morning, but there is parallel. What was my problem? Remember, I was discouraged. I was distraught. I had felt that even the Lord had let me down. Anybody here want to be brave enough to admit that in your life? But by the end of the day, it was a complete reversal. Let me ask you, what brought about that change? I didn't stumble across a big wad of cash. I didn't get a job promotion. What changed my outlook? You know what it was? Time with the Lord and time in His Word. Did you catch that? Time with the Lord. The whole time, we didn't realize it, but the whole time we were with the Lord. And there was time in the Word. He was showing us things from the Word. You can do that too. Time with the Lord and time in His Word. It sounds so simple, and yet it's so profound. Can I encourage you this morning to go on a similar walk like I did that first Easter Sunday? A special kind of walk. Time with the Lord and time in His Word. For some of you, that walk might start this morning. Realizing that you can't even begin to walk because you haven't admitted your helpless condition. That no matter how hard you try to be good, it's just not good enough. And you can try and try and try, but it's still not good enough. You're going to need a gift from God. And that gift is found in Jesus Christ, the perfect Lamb of God. And you can put your faith in Jesus Christ this morning and begin that walk. For others of you, it might mean walking again. Maybe you used to walk with the Lord, but somewhere along the lines you took what you thought would be a shortcut and you'd come back to the Lord, but it's been a long time. Maybe you hit a dead end, or maybe you've been in a ever loop. And it's time to come back to the Savior. For others of you, you just need that encouragement to keep walking. So many people, they just don't finish well, and I want to encourage you to finish well. Keep up that walk. Keep up that walk. Well, I need to get going. We were so excited that night when Jesus showed himself to us and he disappeared. We ran off to Jerusalem. I don't think my wife or I covered the bread, so I need to get back and check that out. But thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go back. Pastor Ben's been sleeping back there probably. I'm going to go get him, and I'm going to be going, and he'll come back out here, okay? All right, thank you. How many remember that story from the Bible? You can check it out for yourself at Luke 24:13 through 35. I encourage you to read that on your own time. Many of you have seen me do one of these character presentations before, and so I thought it'd be nice to do it on Easter Sunday, and so we did it. But read the passage for yourself. It's interesting. We only know the name of one of the two who walked back that day, and some feel that it was his wife. Could have been, could not, I don't know, but I presented it as my wife. So take those words, but remember, there's a lesson there, is that when you get discouraged, remember that God's on time every time, right? Just understand, there's a bigger picture that perhaps you are not looking at that you need to know. But to enforce this idea of hope, my wife is has a special that she would like to do. So Anna, would you come up?
I stand in awe within the presence of the Lord, in whom the wisdom of the ages lies, for whom the raging of the seas subsides, the living sacrifice, the only source of life. My hope is in the Lord from this time on and evermore. My hope is in the Lord forevermore. His tender mercies come with every rising sun to meet the sinner in his brokenness, to offer healing and forgiveness. And those who trust in him will find their hearts at rest. My hope is in the Lord from this time on and evermore. My hope is in the Lord. My hope is in the Lord this time on and evermore. My hope is in the Lord. My hope is in the Lord. Oh, my hope is in the Lord forevermore.
Thank you, Anna. Before this music team comes up and sings one of my Easter favorites, He Lives, would you bow in prayer? Father, we thank you for this day. Our hope is in you. Lord, convict us where we might have put our hope in money, in another person, in our own abilities.